The broken starship rested in the lonely dust of the Badlands, far from cities and far from comfort. It had fallen years ago, long before most people believed aliens were real. The land around it was dry, cracked, and silent, like the earth itself was afraid of the thing buried there. Its dark metal skin was split open, twisted like a wounded beast left to rot under the open sky. No one knew where it came from or why it had been left behind, only that it did not belong to this world. For a long time, the government kept the area hidden. Fences rose around the crash site and armed guards watched day and night. Drones circled above, and warning signs stood along every dirt road that led too close. People whispered stories about strange lights and low sounds in the night. Some said the ship was dead. Some said it was waiting. Many were too scared to look. John Carter was not scared. He had once dreamed of building machines that could touch the stars. Now he fixed broken aircraft parts in a dull repair bay and tried not to think about the days when his life had meaning. His hands were skilled, but his heart felt worn down by quiet years and small duties. When he received the invitation to join a special recovery project, he thought it was a joke at first. Then he saw the seal and the words below it, and he knew this was real. Lisa Morgan read her own invitation with wide eyes and trembling fingers. She had spent her life studying the sky, mapping patterns of light in the darkness, and writing paper after paper that few people understood. She had always believed humans were not alone. Now she had proof, and it lay broken in the dirt. They arrived at the site together, though they did not know each other yet. Helicopters dropped them near a gray steel outpost that sat like a scar beside the crash zone. Cold wind brushed their faces as dust swirled around their boots. Far ahead, the starship rose from the earth like the remains of a fallen god. John stood still for a moment, staring at its massive form. He felt small, like a child looking at a storm cloud. Lisa walked beside him in silence, her eyes filled with quiet awe and deep thought. Neither of them spoke, but both felt the same strange pull, as if the ship was calling to them without sound. A military officer led them past a series of checkpoints and into a narrow path that curved toward the wounded hull. As they walked, John noticed faint lines glowing along the metal surface, soft green traces that faded and returned like a slow breath. Lisa noticed it too. "It is still alive," she whispered. No one answered her. The guards avoided her eyes. Inside the ship, the air felt cold and dry, but not empty. Strange shapes lined the walls, smooth and sharp at the same time. Corridors twisted in ways that made no sense to human design. The floor felt warm under their feet, almost like living flesh trying to remember its purpose. John ran his fingers along a nearby panel. The surface shifted slightly at his touch, as if responding. His heart began to beat faster, not from fear but from wonder. This was not scrap metal. This was something more. Something that had crossed the endless dark of space and landed in their forgotten corner of Earth. Lisa moved slowly, her eyes tracing every detail. She murmured notes into a small recorder, describing the patterns, the shapes, the faint hum deep within the structure. She felt like a traveler stepping into a story far older than human time. They found the core chamber after several careful hours. The center of the ship was split open from some great internal explosion, yet faint energy still shimmered there, like light caught in broken glass. Pieces of alien code flickered across floating holographic screens that appeared and vanished without warning. Technology teams watched from behind thick glass panels, while John and Lisa stood closer, guided by cautious directions through their earpieces. Step by slow step, they moved toward the heart of the abandoned machine. John noticed something strange etched into one shattered surface. Symbols not meant for human eyes, yet they formed a pattern that suggested warning or command. Lisa studied them in silence, then softly spoke. "They did not lose this ship," she said. "They chose to leave it." That thought settled over the team like heavy fog. If this was true, then the ship was not a mistake. It was a test, or a message, or worse, a sign of deep alien judgment. As days passed, John and Lisa returned again and again. They learned its shape, its strange heartbeat, its silent language. Every piece of it told a story of violent power and calm intelligence. This was not a tool made for peace. This was built to control worlds. Hidden logs recovered from its memory banks revealed faded images of distant planets and unfamiliar skies. Data sequences showed flashes of war and conquest, of worlds bending under alien will. The Starship, even broken, carried the shadow of that cruel purpose. John began to understand the truth. The vessel had been damaged in its mission and abandoned without care. Its creators had decided it was no longer worth saving. They had left it on Earth like useless waste, never believing a lesser species could touch its secrets. He felt anger rise in his chest, quiet but strong. Humans were not insects. They were not animals to be ignored. They had survived storms, wars, and silent suffering. Now something beyond the stars had judged them unworthy and left its broken weapon behind like a careless insult. Lisa sensed the same weight but in a different way. She felt sadness mixed with wonder. If they could leave such power behind without concern, what did that say about the universe? What did that say about humanity's place within it? Outside the ship, debates echoed through military chambers. Some leaders wanted the Starship destroyed out of fear. Others wanted it locked away forever. But there were those who saw a rare chance to learn, to grow, to step into a larger reality. John and Lisa became quiet voices in that decision, though they never asked for that role. They only wanted to understand, to touch the unknown and give it meaning. Late one evening, as the sun painted red lines across the horizon, John remained alone inside the ship. He watched a faint line of light slide across the alien wall, responding to the small hum of energy still alive in the core. He placed his palm against the metal, and for a moment, it seemed to pulse slightly, like recognition. Somewhere deep within the ship, a soft sound echoed, not loud, not clear, but steady, as if something had awakened from a long sleep and noticed him finally standing there. He stepped back slowly, his breath shallow. He did not know what it meant. He only knew that the story of this machine was not finished. The next morning, Lisa noticed changes inside the vessel. Some panels looked smoother. Certain lights flickered more often. A door that once refused to open slid aside with gentle ease. The ship was shifting, adapting, reacting to the humans inside it. And still, no alien voice returned. No warning came. No signal from the stars answered. It was as if the ones who had built it no longer cared at all. As the sun climbed higher over the dry earth, and the team stepped once more into the silent gut of the wreck, one truth settled quietly among them. The aliens had not only abandoned their broken starship. They had underestimated who humans truly were. The days that followed felt slow and careful, like walking across thin ice that could break at any moment. The broken starship did not sleep. Small lights continued to flicker across its walls, and low sounds echoed through its hollow passages, as if it was trying to breathe again after years of silence. John Carter returned every morning with the same quiet focus. He no longer felt like a visitor. The ship had become a puzzle that called to him, a machine that carried questions no human had ever faced before. Each step inside felt familiar and strange at the same time. Every surface held secrets, and every sound hinted at hidden movement. Lisa Morgan stayed close, her mind always active, her eyes always searching. She recorded every small change. The way a panel softened under her touch. The way a thin line of light pulsed when she spoke too loudly. She knew something inside the ship was reacting, learning, adjusting. Others joined their efforts soon enough. Engineers, soldiers, and code experts filled the outpost with quiet urgency. Among them was Parker, a calm systems analyst with sharp instincts, and Watson, a quiet software specialist who spoke softly but noticed everything. Together, they formed a small team that worked inside the heart of the alien vessel, slowly mapping its structure and testing what little they understood. Each experiment felt like reaching into a dark ocean, never knowing what might rise to the surface. The ship continued to change, though no one touched certain areas. Sealed doors blinked with alien symbols that shimmered when humans approached. In some sections, the floor grew warmer. In others, cold air drifted like unseen breath. John began to notice that the ship responded more clearly to human presence. When hands touched one section, lights appeared nearby. When voices echoed, faint pulses moved through the walls. It did not feel random. It felt like the slow awareness of something waking and testing its surroundings. He shared this thought with Lisa while they stood beside a broken console. "It feels like it knows we are here," he said quietly. Lisa nodded, "or it is trying to understand what we are." This idea both frightened and excited the team. Was it safe to wake a machine designed for conquest? Could a weapon made for ruin learn a new purpose? No one had answers, but still, they continued. Discovered a way to translate fragments of alien data into rough visual forms. It was not true language, but patterns that hinted at things long forgotten. Images flickered across makeshift screens, showing burning skis, towering cities of metal, and strange figures moving without faces. They were not memories of peace. They were echoes of control and destruction, worlds under rule, planets silenced by command. Watched the images in silence, her face pale. "This ship was never meant to save," she whispered. John's jaw tightened. Maybe not, but it was left here, and now it is ours to understand. Outside the damaged hull, military leaders grew uneasy. Reports of ship activity reached them daily. They saw the rising power and sensed unknown danger. Some began to push for final shutdown procedures. Others argued for caution. The debates grew louder, filled with fear and uncertain hope. Inside the alien vessel, the hum deepened. The core pulsed more clearly. What once felt faint now felt steady, almost strong. The ship was no longer only a broken object. It was reactivating piece by piece under human eyes. John placed his hand against a responsive panel one evening and felt the soft vibration beneath his palm. Not cold, not harsh, something close to warmth. His breath slowed. He did not feel threatened. He felt observed. Behind him, a soft sliding sound echoed. A corridor that had been sealed before was now open, revealing a path into untouched sections of the ship. It was dark, yet faint points of light marked the way forward, like guiding stars inside a metal night. Lisa stood nearby, noticing the change. "It opened because of you," she said quietly. John frowned, "or because it chose to." Slowly, carefully, they stepped forward, guided by silent permission rather than force. Their boots echoed faintly against the smooth surface below, and the temperature shifted as they moved deeper. This new chamber held strange structures, curved and layered, as if grown rather than built. Soft pulses of energy flowed in slow rhythm through semi-transparent conduits along the walls. Every movement felt important, every breath watched. Glanced around in quiet wonder. "This is the mind," he murmured. At the center stood a tall structure shaped like a twisting column of light and shadow. Energy shimmered through it, rising and falling like a slow tide. Stepped closer, though her hands trembled. "If this controls the ship, it may rewrite itself now," she said. No one spoke for a moment. The silence felt heavy and sacred. Then, as if sensing collective presence, the column released a soft glow that spread outward like a living pulse. Systems long dormant flickered to life. Panels across the ship ignited in slow waves. Circuits awakened from sleep and responded to unknown command. Signals spread through the outpost. Alarms blinked silently, warning lights flaring on distant monitors. Voices filled communication channels as control teams outside reacted with growing tension. "Core structure is stabilizing," a voice reported. "Energy output rising steadily." John did not step back. He watched the glowing column and felt an odd calm settle over him. Years of frustration, loss, and quiet longing seemed far away in this moment. Here stood something new, something impossible, and he was part of it. Lisa placed a gentle hand on his arm. "Whatever happens, it responds to us," she said. He nodded slowly. "Then maybe it is learning who humans are." As the ship stabilized, systems began adjusting their form, changing UI displays to simpler structures, almost echoing human design. Shapes became more familiar. Pathways aligned in clearer edges. It shaped itself not to alien doctrine but to human logic and touch. This shift did not go unseen. From deep space, faint signals escaped the ship's atmosphere and traveled outward like a whisper, a silent echo that reached far beyond the Earth. Back in the ship, managed to interface with the vessel more directly. Streams of data splashed across her console, forming semi-readable lines. She did not understand all of it, but she saw enough. The ship was not only repairing itself. It was adapting. It rewrote protocols. It broke old rules. It reshaped its identity from alien command to human connection, not as a slave, but as a system trying to survive in a new world. John sensed something deeper in this transformation. It was not only technology. It was defiance turned into creation. Something once meant to dominate was now learning restraint. Still, unease remained. If the ship could change on its own, what path would it choose? Could humans guide it, or would it outgrow them? Late into the night, Lisa stayed awake reviewing experimental data. Her eyes burned with exhaustion, but her mind refused to rest. She watched wave patterns flowing through the ship, each pulse like a heartbeat gaining strength. "This is no longer abandoned," she whispered to herself. Outside the outpost, stars glittered above calm desert silence. No alien shadows crossed the sky. No strange ships arrived. Only Earth and its quiet moon watched over what was slowly being reborn below. Inside the wreck, the core flickered once more, sending a deeper surge of energy through the metal veins of the vessel. Lights stabilized. Systems aligned. Pathways glowed in synchronized pulse. John stood in the corridor and felt the air shift, as if recognizing him not as intruder, but as partner. The broken starship was no longer just a forgotten weapon. It was becoming something else. And far beyond the edge of human stars, unseen eyes began to notice the silent signal that should have never returned. The silence of space did not last forever. Far beyond Earth, a faint signal traveled through cold darkness. It was weak, almost forgotten, but to the ones who created the starship it was impossible. That ship was meant to be dead, lost, abandoned without worth. And yet something had stirred it. Something unplanned, something human. The alien fleet changed its course without emotion or doubt. Their vessels moved like shadows through the stars, guided by cold purpose. They were not coming to greet. They were returning to erase what should not exist. On Earth, John Carter felt a strange weight settling over his thoughts, though he did not know why. The ship hummed steadier now, stronger, like a deep heartbeat under his feet. The air inside it no longer felt empty or weak. It felt watchful, aware. Lisa Morgan noticed it too. Every system test showed rising stability. Power levels climbed without human input. The vessel no longer needed constant correction. It adjusted on its own, responding to presence and movement like a quiet animal learning its surroundings. Frowned at his screen as new data streamed in. "Energy curves keep rising," he said calmly, but unease touched his tone. "It should not be this stable yet." Leaned closer to her console, her brow tight. "It is forming its own logic chains. The core is rewriting patterns beyond our input." John crossed his arms, watching the pulsing walls. "Is that bad?" "Not yet," Claire answered. "But it means we are no longer the only ones making choices here." Days passed, and the sense of approaching change grew thicker. The outpost remained busy, but quiet tension filled every corridor. Technicians spoke in low voices. Guards walked with higher alert. Something invisible was pressing closer to their world. Then the first deep space warning arrived. Satellites picked up unusual movement beyond the solar edge. Slow at first, then growing clearer. Multiple signatures, organized, intentional. Military command contacted the site at once. Unknown objects detected. Trajectory toward Earth. Arrival window estimated in weeks. No one had to say what it meant. Everyone knew. Lisa turned her gaze toward the alien ship as if it could answer her directly. "They are coming back for it," she murmured. John nodded slowly, "or to make sure it stays dead." Inside the vessel, the hum deepened, almost as if it sensed the distant echo of its creators. Panels brightened. Pathways shifted. The ship was not afraid, but it was aware. It seemed to prepare, though no clear command had been given. Placed a palm against the interface node, and for the first time it glowed fully beneath his touch. Clear lines formed around his hand, accepting his presence without resistance. It no longer fought human input. It welcomed it. "It knows," he said softly. "Knows what?" Lisa asked. "That something is coming." As the alien fleet drew closer, Earth leaders struggled with fear and disbelief. No clear message arrived from the approaching force. No sign of peace. Only silent movement and vast shadow traveling across the stars. Inside the Starship, John moved through newly opened corridors that once had no access. Lights guided his steps without command. He felt less like a trespasser now and more like part of its purpose, though he could not explain why. He found a chamber he had never seen before, deep within the structure. The air here felt thicker, charged with soft heat. At the center stood a crystalline surface that reflected his silhouette in shifting layers. When he stepped closer, the surface reacted, rippling outward like water touched by a falling drop. He raised his hand slowly. The crystal brightened. His breath slowed. "Hello," he whispered, not knowing who or what he was speaking to. The surface pulsed in reply. Across the ship, systems synchronized as if responding to one core awareness. Lights on distant hull sections aligned in rhythm. The hum sharpened into a structured flow. Outside, the first images of the alien fleet reached Earth stations. Massive forms, sleek and cold, filled the distant darkness. Their arrival path was direct, their intent clear. Panic spread faster than any official voice. Inside the vessel, Lisa studied the growing power levels, then looked at John with quiet resolve. "This is no longer about research," she said. "This is about survival." John held her gaze. "Then we make sure it stands with us." And worked side by side, connecting new control systems, writing human-coded safety measures, reshaping interface layers to match familiar logic. The Starship accepted it all, adapting without resistance. What once felt alien now felt like a shared language being formed in silence. The military gave limited clearance for defensive testing. Cautious power calibration began. Engine thrusters activated in small pulses, sending soft vibrations through the ground around the crash site. Nearby soil cracked, dust lifted in heavy waves. "Propulsion responding," a tech voice announced. "Stability still within safe range." Days later, the alien fleet entered visible range from high-orbit sensors. Massive silhouettes against the void, unstoppable and quiet. They still sent no signal. But the Starship responded without instruction. Lights across its outer frame flared brighter. Dormant weapon arrays slid from hidden compartments. Glowing conduits pulsed along the hull like veins awakening for war. Systems that humans had not yet touched powered themselves up in measured sequence. John stood inside the control chamber as the surroundings transformed. Curved panels locked into new positions. Holographic fields shifted to tactical alignments. Everything moved with purpose. "It is preparing," Lisa said. "No one it." Suddenly gasped as new data surged her screen. Targeting frameworks initializing, she whispered. It is detecting shapes outside atmosphere. The alien fleet crossed into near orbit. Their presence darkened part of the sky, blocking stars like silent giants. Civilians watched from cities and open plains, fear rising in every human breath. But below the surface of the Badlands, a vessel once discarded now pulsed with quiet strength. John felt his heart pound steady as the ship adjusted around him. This was more than machinery. This was response, a silent promise forming between human and creation. They were no longer simply repairing a forgotten relic. They were arming a choice. And the ones who had abandoned it were about to learn that what they left behind had found new hands, new will, and a new reason to exist. The sky over the Badlands darkened as the alien fleet completed its approach. Silent shapes hovered high above the earth, vast and cold, like watchful eyes staring down at a planet they believed was weak. No signal came from them. No words, only presence. Inside the rebuilt ship, every system glowed with steady light. The hum that once felt faint now rolled deep and strong, like a heart fully awake. John Carter stood at the central control space, surrounded by soft panels and shifting displays that now shaped themselves into forms he could understand. Lisa Morgan remained calm beside him, though tension touched her face. She watched data ripple across the interface, tracking movement above the atmosphere, and worked in focused silence, their hands moving with careful speed, confirming stability, adjusting human-coded limits, and watching the ship respond with smooth precision. The Starship no longer felt like alien metal. It felt like a bridge between two worlds, guided by human choice. Outside, the first alien craft moved lower. The ground shook faintly beneath it and shadows rolled across the desert. Still, no communication reached the human systems, only silent intent. The ship reacted before any command was spoken. Forward panels shifted, targeting arrays aligned. Soft light gathered along its outer frame, building into focused channels of energy. It did not rush. It did not hesitate. It prepared with quiet purpose. "It is choosing to stand with us," Lisa said softly. John nodded. "Then we do not waste that trust." Above, a single alien vessel split from the main group and descended further, moving closer to the ground. Its form was smooth and sharp, made for control, not conversation. Its presence pressed against the air like a storm holding its breath. John watched its shadow slide across the cracked earth. He felt no fear now, only resolve. Inside, the ship spoke carefully. Core alignment stable, defensive architecture fully synchronized with human command input. Added, "It is waiting for final directive." John looked around at the glowing panels. This was never meant to be human. This vessel was left behind as waste, as proof of alien pride. Now it was something new, something shared. "Defensive posture only," he said calmly. "Protect Earth, no pursuit beyond orbit." The ship acknowledged without spoken word. Its systems responded in flowing waves, adjusting power flow and positioning subtle energy shields around its frame. Above them, the alien craft released a beam of cold light toward the Earth, scanning, judging, confirming what they believed to be a mistake. Then they advanced. The first weapon strike tore through the sky, aimed not at military bases, but directly at the abandoned vessel that no longer lay abandoned. The beam screamed downward, burning bright white against the clouds. In response, the Starship rose. Its engines ignited with deep, measured force, lifting the massive structure from the ground for the first time since its crash. Dust roared outward. Earth cracked beneath its weight. The vessel ascended smoothly, controlled and steady, reclaiming the sky that once rejected it. John felt the shift of gravity, but the ship adjusted instantly, keeping balance perfect. Outside, it met the incoming blast with a shimmering shield that bent the energy away, scattering light across the desert in harmless waves. The alien fleet paused. For the first time, hesitation touched their formation. Then the human-controlled Starship moved forward. It did not charge wildly. It advanced with quiet strength, placing itself directly between Earth and the approaching armada. Lights along its hull burned brighter, no longer fading, no longer weak. Lisa watched the readouts with steady breath. "They did not expect this," she said. John simply replied, "Neither did we." The second strike came with greater force, followed by several smaller blasts from supporting ships. The air vibrated, the sky filled with motion. This time, the Starship did not only defend. Its primary emitters opened, casting focused streams of refined energy that cut through space with precise aim. Not wild destruction, controlled force, guided by human logic and instinct. One alien strike vessel folded under the impact, its surface tearing apart as its light collapsed inward. More followed. Shock rippled through the alien formation. They adjusted quickly, shifting tactics, but something unfamiliar unsettled them. The vessel they once abandoned was no longer a fallen tool. It had exceeded its limits. Inside whispered, almost in awe, "It is responding like it understands fear." Shook his head, "No, it understands us." The battle expanded into orbit as the Starship rose higher, drawing the alien fleet away from the planet's surface. Above the Earth's curve, light and shadow clashed in silent violence. But the human vessel did not lose control. It adapted with every exchange. It learned timing. It adjusted power output. It predicted patterns. What once belonged to alien logic now moved with human unpredictability and resilience. On Earth, millions watched the sky change into a storm of light. Cities held their breath. Children stared upward. Silence filled streets as people realized that the ship above them was not alien anymore. It was theirs. Inside the core chamber, John felt the steady pulse beneath the floor, a shared rhythm between man and machine. Not dominance, not submission, but cooperation born from stubborn survival. The alien fleet began to pull back. Their formation loosened, movements growing cautious. They had not expected resistance from their own creation. They had not expected any form of intelligence to rise from what they abandoned. One final vessel attempted a direct charge, aiming straight for the Starship's core. It moved fast, violent, desperate. The ship reacted in calm precision. A single focused discharge rose from its frame, clean and sharp, striking the incoming craft at its center. The alien ship split apart in radiant silence, vanishing into drifting fragments of fading light. Then the rest turned away. The armada slowly retreated into the dark beyond orbit, their silent refusal replaced by silent retreat. No final threat, no message, only absence. Inside the Starship, the system shifted back into calm state. Lights softened. The hum lowered to its steady rhythm once again. John released a breath he had not known he was holding. Lisa closed her eyes for a moment. "They will remember this," she said quietly. "They should," John replied. "They left us behind a lesson, and we learned it." The ship descended slowly, returning to its place near the Earth. It did not crash this time. It settled with grace, touching ground like a promise fulfilled. Dust drifted away in quiet waves, revealing its but renewed form under the open sky. Outside, the land was still broken, the air still dry, but something had changed forever. The vessel that once symbolized alien control now stood as proof of human will, not stolen, not forced, transformed. Within its structure, systems calmed, but the awareness did not fade. The quiet pulse remained, steady and alive. John stepped off the ramp onto solid ground, his boots sinking into warm dust. Lisa joined him, her eyes reflecting the fading glow of the ship behind them. No cheers echoed, no loud celebration followed, only understanding. Humanity had faced the unknown and refused to bow. The aliens had abandoned a broken starship on Earth, believing it meant nothing. But humans had rebuilt it into retribution, not as revenge alone, but as a statement carved into stars. What they leave behind is never wasted, and what they underestimate will rise.